Hey guys, Chad Hoover. Welcome to today's video where I'm going to talk to you about the #1 kayak fishing accessory you should have on your kayak that you probably don't. Fish on! That's a toad, brother. Golly! All right, guys, so before we jump into today's video, I have to thank today's sponsor, the Alabama Mountain Lakes Association. Head over to the Visit North Alabama website, download the destination guide to plan your next adventure. Listen, whether you're hiking, biking, climbing, running, you're a foodie, you like breweries, you like a little bit of all of that, or if you're like me and you're a bass fishing junkie, come to the area where there's more of the top 10, top 20, top 25, and top 100 bass lakes than anywhere else in the country. North Alabama. Now let's jump into the video. All right, guys, so for the purpose of today's video, we're going to say that there's certain things that you just have to have. Obviously, the PFD is probably the most important piece of gear on your fishing kayak. Second to that is a paddle, but we're going to leave it to you've got your basics covered. You got your paddle, you got your PFD, you got your pliers, you got all that stuff. Here's the #1 thing that I think most kayak fishermen don't have on their fishing kayak, but every kayak fisherman should, and that is some type of water removal device. Now, I'm taking this out of my kayak after fishing up north, and just to show you, when you start putting holes in your boat, you start drilling it, if your nose takes on waves, you're going to take on water. So it's always a good idea to take that little bit of water out of your kayak, and it's always a good idea to make sure you're kind of managing it to make sure you don't have a bigger hole or a problem. But I'm a big fan of having some type of device that allows you to evacuate the water much more quickly. Like, for example, if you took this sponge and you were trying to go into a hatch and the boat was taking on water, you're probably going to have a problem. But if you grab something like this, these kind of pumps that, you know, the brand doesn't specifically matter. There's a lot of companies out there that make this type of pump. But what I'm a big fan of is having this hose that allows you to pump the water out and get it clear of the cockpit. So you're not pumping water back into your boat, you're not pumping it all over yourself, and you're not making a mess. So let me show you exactly how this thing works. You basically stick it in the water and you start pumping, and this thing just literally starts moving some serious water. All right, guys, and so that's a gallon of water in just a couple of seconds. And so the purpose of this thing is to evacuate a lot of water in a hurry. As we're moving into the colder months, and as you fish through the colder months and even into the warmer months when the water temperature is still cold but the air starts to warm up, this is even more important, because if you end up in the water in a situation where you're not dressed adequately, which again is a whole nother topic, a whole nother video, but this piece of gear right here can save your life. If you're fishing in rough water, if you have a bow mounted trolling motor, if you have weight in your boat where you could potentially take waves over the nose, or you just fish in an area where that's going to happen on a regular basis, then you have to have one of these. But I highly encourage you to have a pump in or on your kayak at all times if you're fishing anywhere where you're not a couple hundred feet, not yards, but a couple hundred feet from shore. Because guys, things can turn to crap in a hurry. You could knock a hole in your boat, you could have a cracked scupper. There's a lot of things with these plastic boats that make them really reliable, but there's still something that humans make, and anything a human makes can fail. You can ratchet strap it and pop a scupper. You can have somebody have a piece of debris flap off the highway and there could be a hole you don't know about. I've seen it happen more times than I care to talk about. I can't believe it's taken me this long to do this video, but guys, it doesn't matter where you buy it. It doesn't matter what brand it is. Get yourself a pump. Get yourself something that is manual. Don't get an electric pump that you stick inside your kayak and you forget about and the wires corrode or the battery's dead. Get you something that you can fold up, stick inside the boat, stick under your seat, stick in your tank well, and you'll have it when you need it. Not only can this thing save your gear, but it can save your life. So pick up a pump. Hope you guys like this video. I'll see y'all in the next one with some more fishing and potentially life-saving tips. All right, guys, so just in case you watch this video and you're like, oh man, I got a sponge in my kayak, it's not that big a deal, or I always got a cup or something with me. Let me demonstrate something for you. I pre-soaked this oversized sponge, and this is just your standard automotive sponge with 16 ounces of water, okay? And that's how much water 16 ounces of water is, okay? And then to get that water out of there, I got to get my arm back in there. I got to squeeze this sponge, and it's going to take forever for this thing to draw the water. Got to get my arm down in the boat. So with these type of pumps, you can also add a tube to the end of it. You can also use a siphon to do this exact same thing, but I highly recommend these high volume pumps. But I want to demonstrate the difference between using a sponge, because the idea is that you want to get the water out of your boat so you can get back underway. If you can get underway, whether you're paddling, pedaling, or motoring, then you can keep the water from coming in the boat, because 95% of the time, if you're moving, you're going to prevent that water from coming in. And the idea is to get enough water out so that you're not unstable so you can get back underway. you got a motor, you can get the boat moving a little bit and then you can keep pumping. If you got pedal drive, you can probably do the same thing, but it's a lot easier with a motor. So let me show you the difference between the old sponge standby and one of these high volume pumps using this 1 gallon Yeti container here. So basically you stick the pump in there, and I'm not gonna get crazy with this. I'm just gonna pump it like you normally would, and then no crazy, boom, gallon, done. Once you take that pump out of there, it's got 1 stroke worth of fluid left, and it pretty much got all but that last little bit of water out of that 1 gallon Yeti Rambler. That's the difference between a high volume pump that's got something to reach down inside your hull, makes it to where you can sit comfortably in the cockpit, pump this thing out, hop back in your seat, get underway, and get safely to somewhere that you can take care of the hole, the patch, whatever you've got to do. And again, it could have just been that you took on water over the bow, you had an open hatch, or you have a leak. Now that you get the water out of there, it's not a problem anymore. Crisis averted. You can get back to fishing, or you can definitely get back to not stressing about sinking your valuable fishing kayak and losing all your gear. So the sponge is great. This thing right here is way more gooder. Get you a high volume pump. Get yourself one of these here fancy tubes to make the water going out of the boat easier. You can even buy a couple of these and do a siphon setup. But do whatever you've got to do to make sure you can vacate water out of the inside of one of these plastic vessels should it get compromised on your next fishing trip.